This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
Shut the fuck up, kitty corner.
It's every day.
Every day.
He's
trying to shuffle chips and he's just
You can't
spraying them all over the place.
You just can't stay still.
I was flailing.
It's like literally they're like, mics are hot. He's like, oh, time to talk.
90 minutes a day. We ask you to sit still and give us your thoughts on the world. And
He doesn't sit still and he doesn't sit until 5 seconds before we start recording. He's walking, pacing around the room, flailing his long limbs.
But like 30
It gives me such anxiety because I think everything's gonna be knocked over.
30 seconds before the show started, everyone was dead quiet, and it's like mics are hot, and then all this noise.
Let's do a bunch of shit.
You know what? This is very fitting because on a day where maybe some of the most newsworthy things have occurred, we have nothing but technical difficulties.
All right.
So we're here in studio recording live to tape. We will be releasing this podcast in a few hours because basically we're in a fist fight with Cox.
Cock suck fuck.
Cock suck fuck.
Yeah.
To give a little bit of a backstory of like how we even got to this point, we had two business lines here that they both, quote unquote, got suspended for 90 days. And when we called them and said, what do we have to do to get our internet unsuspended? They go, you can't. There's too much bandwidth being used from your collective community and we're throttling it. We're like, well, then we cancel. And they're like, okay, that is your right. And then we call back and say, would like to open a new business account under a new name. And they're like, great, would love to have you. And for 3 weeks, that worked.
Yep.
Now, we're back to cock, suck, fuck.
How does it work with all, like, okay, where we live, there's other YouTubers in our community that are like very known YouTubers.
By YouTubers, you mean OnlyFans?
No. Like real
Ew.
YouTubers. Like, I'm not gonna.
I mean, the guy next to us is mining Bitcoin.
No, there's
Well,
a
that's
couple. There's a
not a
couple YouTubers. I'll
YouTube
tell you
thing.
after. But like,
What's their
And then-
business?
finance.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Yeah, like major ones.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
big channels. So
Bro, why aren't we collabing? What the fuck?
Yeah,
I
why
didn't know you were interested.
You just keep this to yourself. Like, we can borrow studio right now.
It's dark side.
But the true answer is they probably don't do anything live.
No, they do live stuff too. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, most of their stuff is not like this. But
Right.
they do stuff like this.
Sure. Yeah.
So
yeah.
so yeah, I'm just curious. What are the options for these people outside of Cox? Because this is nuts. Also,
None.
that's a wild name.
Well, I'm sure it's the founder's last name if I had to guess. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously their fault that we're being throttled. We thought we were the only ones in the community. Now we're dealing with porn stars. We're dealing with OnlyFans. We're dealing with finance guys.
Guy mining Bitcoin.
Guy mining Bitcoin next door. Bro, it's fucking 2022. Mining Bitcoin is out.
Yeah,
you
That's
need,
way too late.
fucking
you need
money.
like a full operation. Like,
Yo, he has wires coming out of his basement. Just like these fucking...
yeah, but the
It sounds
competition
like he
he's up
has an
against is
operation.
like real companies.
Like fiber
yeah.
optics.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
like-
like billion-dollar companies.
Yeah, you're talking
Yeah.
about huge companies.
Yeah,
Either
like
way, though,
huge.
what I'm saying is, there's no option for us to just be like,
No,
hey,
he
we'll
said
give you
we-
more money.
Vegas-
Listen, I talked to these people so many times, and it was just like, we will pay you more money. We will give you whatever you want. Just give us more.
Yeah, like they have us by the balls.
And they were
All
like,
we want is more
"Can't do it."
internet.
I'm
Yeah.
sold. The man said it just like that, too.
It was. It was like, take my money, like that meme. And
We will give you
Yes.
more money.
Like, shut up and take my money. And
So
they
there's
just
no other.
were like,
They have a
no.
monopoly.
So CenturyLink also exists, but they just like openly say we don't give you any upload speed.
Yeah.
They're just like, you can pay a third of the cost,
That's
but
the
you're going to get
problem.
1/10 of the
Right.
upload. And it's like,
Cox,
So it's a straight
Cox pretty much
monopoly.
has a monopoly. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a
I've
monopoly
played
for the most
Monopoly
part.
before. They have a monopoly.
Yeah, exactly. They said, "Do not pass go. Do
yeah, they
not
have
collect
Boardwalk and Park
$200.
Place on
Do not
lockdown.
go
Yeah.
live."
All right, let's get to all the good. Well, actually, let me first and foremost announce the winner to this past week's Hand of the Week. Andre, I think I sent that to you in Discord. If you want to pull that up, maybe I didn't. Anyway,
We'll loop back to that.
the hand that was in question was a 4-bet pot of myself versus Chris Konvalinka. This is my fault. I was on the phone during pre-production and didn't get any of this over to Andre. So you know what? Fuck it. Let's skip it. Congratulations to the winner of this week's Hand of the Week. Moving on.
You know what you did.
Yeah, you know what you did. You've been messaged. Hit up Brian for your discount.
Wow.
Pretty much it.
Moving into more of like what's relevant today is that Bryn Kenney finally came and spoke out on his own behalf as he set up a softball interview with
You're already
News.
dropping the softball part?
Listen, man,
I mean,
I
shit
love
was
Sarah.
just lobbing him up there.
I
for
love
him,
Sarah
like-
to death. And if I'm ever on trial for murder or corruption or anything like that, I want her to be the person who interviews me. She's just too sweet to kind of like push on the buttons. And it's not even that she didn't ask the right questions, because she did. 100% she asked all of the right questions. There was just like
A follow-up.
It was just letting him off the hook. Like
Yeah.
she point blank said, "Did you ever play on Lauren's account?" And his answer was, "I've been playing poker for 17 years, and I'm a humble
Yeah.
individual who like really looks after all of those around me and
Just wanna
takes
have
care of everybody.
gratitude."
And you can ask anybody I've done business with. I'm no cheater. Have I done some unscrupulous things? Like, have I been in a room where somebody I cared dearly for was in a big spot and I may have suggested how they play a hand? Who has?
I mean, that's what I learned from the interview, was that Bryn is just the nicest guy, the best guy. All he cares about is, bettering
Helping
humanity.
others.
Yeah.
I thought he came off kind of okay though, honestly, unfortunately.
I mean, he answered all the questions.
Oh,
I
Yeah, well,
thought- I
he's
thought-
obviously
I thought-
been advised by a lawyer on what to say and how to say it.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that Sarah, like that's the big critique on Twitter, right? Like Sarah wasn't hard enough on him.
well,
And Doug is like saying like, oh, you should have came on my pod. I would have took care of this. And then
yeah. Why
So
is there
he
a
didn't even
calculator on the
agree to
screen
do-
behind you?
calculator? I don't know. I don't do this stuff.
Yeah, what is that? He's got a calculator behind
crunching
him.
numbers.
Bro, I have no idea. Like,
So
that
he
was-
didn't even agree to do an interview with Poker News unless it was with Sarah.
Yeah, and that's all reasonable.
So
For
they
what it's
didn't
worth,
have a choice,
I
basically.
don't really think that. I don't think like him going on Doug's pod would have shined a light on anything else. I just think it would have made Bryn look worse. So like to Christian's point, he got to do an interview in a friendly environment where the person doing the interviewing was looking after him, and I don't even know that like it's to Sarah's fault. Like I don't think she could have done more to pry out of Bryn, but I think she could have made him look worse by constantly saying like, "You didn't answer my question.
Yeah.
I legitimately just asked yes or no. Did you ever play on Lauren's account?"
Right.
And you gave me a 5-minute sidebar of how you're a good person and take care of those around you. It's like, I don't care. Like, just yes or no. It's that simple, right? But that's a hard fucking place to put your friend, right?
Yeah.
Like, if any of us were in the position to interview someone in this room about something that may be very condemning to them, like, yeah, we're gonna let them skirt a little bit. That's just the nature of humanity when you care about the other person on the other side. It did remind me a lot of the Matthew Parvis Howard Lederer interview from 2011.
Except that
2011?
Howard looked awful.
I don't remember it that way at all.
Oh no, dude! I
He
remember.
may have physically looked bad.
No, I remember that being like really
Poor
bad
guy.
because
Parvis got absolutely obliterated for that interview.
listen, I remember this because I wasn't I wasn't a professional poker player, like, and I was just watching this because I wanted to know what happened, and I was like, he doesn't answer any fucking questions.
Right, but neither did
Like,
Bryn.
no, but
that's
what
the
I'm
whole
saying-
point.
no, but
That's
this-
why they're both so reminiscent of
No,
one
but
another.
he was more like, I don't remember, and it's like, bro, you have to remember something. You were the head honcho of this.
Yeah, so he was a little bit more diplomatic about how he said, I don't know.
Bro, it was like straight up. He basically said, I plead the fifth every single time without
What are
saying
you even
it.
talking about right now?
You're so
Wow.
young. You're so young. What? Such a little baby.
There used to be.
What
Wait,
is it?
wait. time
What
out.
happened? It's not just for me, it's for the people.
No, Lynn,
We're fucking with you, obviously.
Landon. There used to be a website. It was called Full Tilt Poker. You could play with the pros. They had a commercial. They all walked out together. It was like Phil Ivey, Jennifer Harmon, like all of them together.
play it?
Phil Gordon.
I actually
There was a
haven't-
guy named Phil Gordon.
I
Landon.
haven't seen this commercial.
I do know Phil
We know.
Gordon only because of the mixed game tournament that Scotty won for his bracelet.
Strong.
Anyways, go on.
And then there was another site. It was called Poker Stars.
Whoa.
It still exists today.
Story time.
Yeah, no. Ultimate Bet. Absolute. Have you heard of Absolute Poker?
I have because a friend of mine had literally a jersey with Absolute Poker on it.
All right. So when all that went to shits, we had to speak to Howard Lederer.
Ah.
And then he said, I don't know anything about nothing.
Yeah, and I guess like where we're not agreeing is that you think it looks really bad to just constantly say I plead the fifth, and I think it looks really bad to tell some story about how you helped a homeless person on the street one time whenever you're asked directly if you're a cheater.
Fair enough.
Bring back cool commercials for poker.
They had the
Full
best
Tilt was so
commercials.
dope.
Wow.
They had
It
the
was
best
so dope.
commercials.
The Tom
Yeah.
DeJuan commercial is legit cinematic. Like,
He was just playing
Yeah, he
that.
was just showing
It
it.
looks so
Wait,
So
was that the
good.
one where he was in the bathroom with the?
It
what
has
was
the
that? Was
mirror,
that,
and then it's changing.
Flamingo?
no, this was the one where he's
Opponents
like
are
looking in the
changing.
mirror.
Yeah.
at the
And he's like
table.
talking about his competition, and like other pros pop up in the
So
mirror, and then he finally
cool.
like says like you only have to compete against yourself.
And then he.
That's a reflection.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Very
There was there was more. There was so
There was
many.
a guy. Remember, the guy
was
walked
so
up
good.
to. Like, they lived in like this house. Remember the house that had all like the suits as like the windows.
Oh, yeah,
and then,
yeah.
And the guy just walks up to Madison with the 7 deuce all suit in his hand. He's like, "Should I limp or raise this?" He just grabs him, rips him in
I
half.
remember that.
That
That was a really good commercial.
Phil
There's a good-
Ivies were the best too.
Yeah.
Phil Ivies were strong.
They had really good presence with being able to market Ivy and Durr. Like they
Yeah.
were so mysterious back then. I remember Mercy had a really cool commercial too for Poker Stars where he kind of just like gave that adage of luck is when preparation meets
Adage?
opportunity. Yeah.
Adage?
Adage.
Adage.
Yeah.
I like to add extra consonants every now and again.
There's like literally like every comment section every day is like some word that we misused. or
Yeah.
something. It's like
No, it's
okay,
adage.
guys.
Yeah, it's adage. But yeah, back then everything was so fucking good that we didn't mind the cheating. There was so much cheating going on then, but we didn't care because like there was way more free money. Like you didn't have to cheat to make money. Now you have to fucking cheat. Like there's just no getting
Damn,
around
just the
it.
way
You know?
you phrased it. It's like, well, you know, it's a price you pay.
Yeah, we didn't give a fuck. It was
It was
like
a small tax to be
it
in
was
the
a
pool.
tiny tax. It was just like, okay, so there's 7 Bonomos in this tournament. Who gives a shit? There's 30,000 people in it. Like, let the man live. I don't care.
It sounds
There's
like
no
we
problem if 6 of them were sitting in the same sit and go. You know, it's like fuck.
Sounds
Right.
like we should start making some commercials.
I think we're long past those. The thing is that they had gazillion dollars
Yeah.
to throw
Yeah.
behind it.
Yeah, it was the machine.
We have pigtails and like a couple nickels to run together.
They had a machine
Couple
behind it. It was
nipples
literally
to
like a
rub together.
machine.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Couple nipples to rub together.
Oh, we got a
Get
video.
Bill Klein in there.
Wait, we got a
Bill Klein
video
and Berkey
of
rubbing
just
nipples
us.
I
is
was
the
just
next
about to say,
commercial.
like, it's unfortunate that like some of these things come up organically in conversation because we can't cue it up. But like, I literally have a video of me in a private game with 2 chips going. Woo!
There's
my
also
mind.
Well, it
another,
is live to tape, so.
there's also another video
true.
you have after beating Matt
Oh,
Perry
yeah.
for a
Yeah.
couple.
That,
So-
I have that still.
That tends to be my celebratory dance, I think.
Yeah,
Nipple rubbing?
All right, so
money,
this-
money
this-
everywhere. Nipple
Yeah.
money
This
on the
reminded
nipples.
you of Letter. I remember Letter, the Letter interviews being like very much worse.
The
but-
Parvis interview was so that's where I'm pushing back hard because Parvis was absolutely obliterated for how much he lit Howard's skirt, and it might have been based off of what you're saying, where he just basically says, "I plead the fifth to everything."
Yeah.
And that for Parvis as an interviewer, it's like that's really fucking tough when a guy's unwilling to answer your
He's
questions.
just saying I don't know all
Yeah,
the time.
right. But
Or I
Brendan,
don't remember.
That's
Brendan
like
did a
me
lot
when
of
I
the
got
same.
caught in
Community
high
was out
school
for blood too.
with a
They
fake
were
ID.
like,
Well, it was a lot of money.
no,
I
of course.
remember.
I mean, rightfully
well,
so.
it was also
Those are called-
frozen. None of us had
That's
any
what I mean.
clue.
So everybody was just like wanted those answers, and then he just didn't get them, and that's why.
Right.
Parvis.
Ooh,
With
beautiful
the-
eyes, though. Look at those eyes.
With the
Dreamy.
Sarah interview today, I think really what ultimately it was is that people had higher expectations out of poker news in general. But like we all knew what was going on. He's only offering the interview because it's going to be Bryn friendly, right? Like he's never going to give that interview to Doug. He's never going to give that interview to us.
That happens all the time, though.
Of course, and
Yeah.
that's fine. It
Yeah.
kind of just is what it is. It's not that big of a deal. But there's a lot that we can still pull away from the hour that he spoke with her.
Yeah.
There were a lot of unanswered questions. There was a lot of misdirection and redirection that took place.
Right.
And there were a lot of things that, or there was one thing in particular that he just flat out refused to answer. And it's the thing that I'm most interested in because I think it's the thing that it has the least amount to do with cheating, but it has the most amount to do with nefarious activity, which is the idea of him, though no longer being a part of GG, still making the majority of his revenue from GG. So she just flat out asked him, can you tell me about your affiliate deal with GG and like how that structure works? And he goes, that's personal. I don't think I need to talk about it. To me, that's a big deal because a lot of what is being wrapped into this bubble of he had a stable that was doing that was cheating and doing nefarious things throughout is all built into the idea of him creating this downline business.
Yeah.
Right. So whether we're talking about collusion in satellites or people folding he loved to use a lot of whataboutisms and moving of the goalpost whenever trying to answer questions. So, for instance, she asked him about his horses cheating, doing what, quote unquote, was best for the team.
Yeah.
And he goes, what's best for the team is everybody to make money. How silly is it to think that I'm gambling for millions and care about hundreds of dollars in a singular decision or thousands of dollars in a singular decision, whatever. And then he brought up the satellite thing where he one of his horses was accused of folding aces early because it would have ended the satellite prior to registration closing.
That's
and he
bad for
said,
Bryn, right.
Yeah.
And he said, like, why would I ever want them to do something that's so clearly negative EV? And what wasn't being followed up is, well, because you're getting the rake,
Right.
right? So that was just never addressed.
And he was guaranteeing the prize pool, right?
Allegedly, we don't know because that question was never even asked.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so allegedly he was on the hook for the prize pools, and allegedly he was getting a big chunk, if not all, of the rake in those early days of GG. So obviously, the idea of creating a ring of players, call them game starters, call them stable, whatever you want, it's not a traditional backing deal where Bryn's interests lie in them being profitable.
Correct.
It's
Because if you have a horse, and you would love the tournament to just end.
Well, he's the operator,
right.
is the thing.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So in this instance, he's the operator who's actually running a stable, and now he's chumming the water he's allegedly chumming the water with a lot of loose money in whales. So he's out there recruiting a lot of dead money in order to keep his stable afloat because they need to eat. But then secondarily, he's churning out mass volume in these guarantees, ensuring that they run, ensuring that they meet the guarantees, and allowing him to scale the rake back. So really what he's creating is a two-pronged system where he can both profit from their play, but also always guarantee some sort of return based off of the rake. Right. Mm-hmm. So we still have a lot of unanswered questions around that whole structure. That was never addressed at all in this interview. And to me, that's the linchpin to this entire thing, because in isolation, his denial of all the nefarious activity makes a lot of sense. There isn't a whole lot of reason for a guy like Bryn to be staking people in 215s and having them get multi-accounted or ghosted or RTA or whatever, right? And there's no incentive whatsoever for them to be playing under him and making negative EV decisions. But if we're talking about this grander plan where, he's funneling piles and piles, hundreds of thousands of dollars up to the top, up the pipeline. Yeah. Now all of a sudden it does make a hell of a lot of sense to just create something sustainable. You're the house. So you're just trying to neutralize all negative edges, right? It's like taking bets as a sports book. Yeah. You're trying to get enough action on both sides that you're never too exposed. And he's utilizing his downline and he's utilizing his stable in order to create this sense of security and insurance for himself. So I thought him skirting that one specific question, because it was the only one that he flat out denied to answer. That to me was like, okay, this is the pain point we need to start digging at. And we need to start getting answers around what his actual relationship was with GG, how much he knows about the back end, how much they know about his activities as far as creating an upline, downline, whatever. And then, kind of see it blossom out from there. A few other things that I thought were pretty telling was he addressed the Sergi scenario, and he basically skirted all responsibility. He just said, my operation is too big for me to be in the know for everything. But as far as Sergi and Martin's account goes, they both said that it happened, that Sergi ghosted him at this final table. It was only 3. He tried to dismiss it as it only being 3 or 4 hands. And it not being that big of a deal. He then said, to his knowledge, Sergi's never used RTA, but almost certainly does use preflop charts. And then to his knowledge, he has no idea why Sergi was banned from GG and wasn't able to get those answers, which seems a little wild to me.
If anyone's going to get answers, it's him, right? It's as if like GG's going to tell him like, yeah, this is
I
what
would
happened.
be astonished if player representatives of that company, such as Negreanu, Kuhn, I'm not sure, like Felipe, maybe not Felipe. I don't know that he's as high up as Negreanu and Kuhn.
But Felipe is big in Brazil, though.
Yeah, Elke, whatever. Like, I would be astonished if there wasn't something being internally shared as far as like this is the behavior we're snuffing out. Maybe not so much as like the people, right? Like, they may not go so far as to say like, hey guys, as team members, you should know that so and so was banned for reason
get
Y.
answers. Like, it's like, okay, this guy has a bunch of business he's bringing to the company. He is your first representative,
Right.
And this is his horse. If I'm like, hey, like, why'd you ban my horse? Like, this is my guy. Like, they're gonna answer him.
Before that, even
Shin's over there just like, this
that's
is
my
my guy.
Yeah, like, this is my guy.
Can't
This is
ban my
horse.
guy.
Like, what's up?
That's my guy. You can't.
well, I
ban
think the
him.
bigger thing should be the opposite, right? Like, Bryn should have to answer to them.
Yeah.
Like, if he's bringing them all this business and whatnot,
Yeah.
and they're like, hey, one of your guys is fucking cheating and we have to do something. Like, that conversation
Right.
had to have taken place at some point, right? You would think anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe everybody is just playing the I'm not responsible card and shit rolls downhill. But, you know, the telltale sign of a poorly run operation, be it Bryn's stable, Bryn's affiliate downline, or GG security system, the telltale sign is whenever the person at the top skirts responsibility. So, like, if you're not willing to take ownership over the fact that, like, you had a horse who was banned for cheating, then that seems like a big problem if you're running a stable in and of itself, right? You don't get to be not complacent or have some level of responsibility to the team that you've assembled.
Unless he just has like generals.
Complicit.
Right?
Sorry.
He just has generals and he's just like the top guy.
What's
like,
the difference? You're still the top guy, man. You're still running the ship. Like,
Right.
sure, maybe the information doesn't get up to you, but like that's a risk that you take by putting this operation together.
Right.
You don't get to be the head of Apple and have somebody at mid-level create some like sort of egregious crime against your user base.
Yeah.
You know, somebody writes in the TOS that
Right.
for every download, they owe a fraction of a penny to this specific person who wrote the code. You don't get to be Tim Cook and say like, well, you guys can understand that was a mid-management thing and like I'm hands off and
Right.
I don't read the TOS.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
You don't get
Right.
to be bigger than Tesla and do shit like that.
Right, exactly.
I was waiting for it, waiting for you to
The
say
needle.
something.
Right. When it all breaks down, the person who is reaping the most benefits is also the one who's on the hook for any sort of risk and
that's fair.
nefarious activities that may take place. So I thought that was all like pretty not great, not a great look for Bryn. I don't think he provided any sort of answers or insight. I think he scratched at the surface of kind of like letting us know that something is going on behind closed doors, but he's trying to draw our attention to something else shiny over here. So like in that same story, he then follows up and says, if I were trying to organize a cheating operation, why then did Martin make a 10K final table a week later and dust it all off three-handed where he had half the chips in play with 7 deuce offsuit? And then he tried to basically frame it as a character assassination against Martin, where it's like, clearly he doesn't care. This guy's just torching my money. I had to cut business ties with him after that. And all of that may be true. I do think that there's a lot about this interview that, you know, Bryn.
It does seem like the Martin Bryn beef is real though. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
like something else
sure.
happened outside of whatever's going on that really did like separate them.
Yes,
Well,
for
I'm sure
sure.
this also doesn't
Well, it
help.
doesn't help, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
exposing
think
him.
that there is a viable level of Bryn discrediting Martin that's fair. But again, I don't think anybody is trying to say that Martin is wholly innocent or is like the ideal person to be whistleblowing here. He just happens to be the one who stepped forward. And
He even says that himself too.
yeah, and in trying to even clear his own name, I feel like Sergi has kind of like opened the door a little bit to let us understand that shit was going on. Like he effectively admits to using charts, and the implication is they're probably ICM charts, which is now a whole lot different than just your standard RFI charts.
Right.
You know, I mean, for those who are unfamiliar, RFI means raise first in. So like, it's literally just like you're looking at a piece of paper telling you what to open from each position. Most pros will tell you like, don't care. Everybody can use them. Not a big deal. Not much edge to be gained there. But there's a big difference between that and then having like fully fleshed out ICM charts or independent chip model where every decision that you make
telling you, like,
has some sort of monetary correlation to it, and it's very different than what it would look like if you were playing, say, a cash game.
That's a big
Yeah.
edge.
It's a very clear like increase or decrease in ROI by having the quote unquote answers for the specific spot in theory
Massive, though.
versus like what you think is
Most
the
of the
right
time,
answer.
It's also machine derived, right? Like you'd have to be running HEM or HRC rather.
Yeah, HRC or simple preflop or something like that.
Something along those lines. There would have to be something that's being able to put in the real-time information. So even if it's not directly like a big rig that is scraping the screen, pulling the data, giving you the answer or anything like that, even if it's something as simple as like, these are the hands we should be VPipping versus not, there's still a calculation taking place on the side.
Right.
And that was kind of alluded to, but never really confirmed nor denied. And Bryn didn't seem to have much problem throwing Sergi under the bus. And then just following it up with saying like, but I believe he's like one of the most honest people in the world. I think he's a world-class player. Like I would put him in anything, yada, yada, yada. He's the reason why Lauren owes me less money because I let her buy a piece of his steak.
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah, like there's some spots, at least just real quick, where like a chip leader is supposed to play 100% of hands. So like blasting it off with deuce 7 or whatever, while it seems like practically insane, might just be good theoretically in some spots.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, you know, Bryn alluded to the fact that he had half the chips in play with 3 left.
Yeah.
So if ever there's a time for it, maybe
Seems
it's that, and maybe there's more to that story. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe Martin can have or can find some proof to corroborate the fact that that was a byproduct of him being told what to do in real time.
Yeah.
Right. But we need to see more of those receipts. That's kind of the issue. I've been talking to Martin as much as I can offline, and he's trying. But everything is like just so fuzzy. Right? Like just reading through as much of the text log as I can, it just seems like there's no like clear it reminds me of like A Few Good Men, right? Like where the order just keeps getting passed down.
What is this movie?
I don't think I've ever seen
Some
it.
1800s movie.
Never seen A Few
I've
Good
never
Men.
seen
This is
this
like,
one
either. Bro.
Zuzulo's head's gonna explode.
For
What
sure.
is happening? Few Good Men.
Have you heard of Tom Cruise?
Of Mice
Okay,
and Men.
there was a movie.
Have you heard of Tom Cruise?
I've heard of Tom Cruise.
Hey,
Yeah.
have you heard of Jack Nicholson?
Yeah.
Sure.
Have you heard of Aaron Sorkin?
No.
Oh, Jesus
That's
Christ.
where we lost him.
Anna
That's where we lost
Sorokin?
them.
Yeah.
Anna Sorokin? I know Anna Sorokin.
Have you seen the Social Network?
Yes.
Okay, Aaron Sorkin directed that.
All right.
Wrote it.
Wrote
Sure.
and directed it.
Good movie.
Have you
Sure.
seen
Fine.
Newsweek on HBO?
What the
Newsroom.
fuck is Newsroom?
Newsroom.
Oh
Sorry,
my
my
God.
Oh,
bad.
I've
you
seen
know
that.
Newsroom?
Yeah. I've
Oh,
seen
man.
that.
Okay,
haven't
yeah.
seen that
Aaron
either.
Sorkin again.
Okay.
The West Wing, Aaron
Sure.
Sorkin. Okay. We'll catch you up to speed. This is a fucking all-time classic movie. It's in most people's top 20, for sure.
What's it called? Mice and Men?
Of Mice and Men.
A Few Good Men.
Man. Have you ever heard someone say like,
Bro,
I want
how
the
are
truth?
we
Like, you
having this-
can't handle the
Yeah,
truth.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you
That's
come
that
from that
movie.
movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. I don't know the movie.
on that wall. You need me
I'm
on
not gonna lie,
that
I
wall.
always thought it was Mr. T.
I always thought it was like Judge
You
Judy.
should actually just have Zeus come in and just like do that whole entire scene.
Yeah, I agree.
I always thought it was like Judge Judy. Or
Please
something.
watch
Judge Judy.
Please watch
That
A Few Good Men
Mr.
today.
T
It's
would
actually
say
really
that,
good.
though.
Mr. T is like, I pity the fool.
Yeah, he
That's
would, he
Mr.
would
T.
say, you can't handle the truth.
I pity the fool that can't handle the truth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
you're
gonna have a
kinda-
team viewing of
How do
A
you
Few
not?
Good Men.
Team
We
viewer.
need to watch A Few Good Men. That's wild.
Yeah.
Brings
Top
up
tier.
that reminds
Listen,
me.
I have read of Mice and Men, okay? So
Okay.
don't.
I've only
Lenny
heard
is
of
an
the.
all-time classic character. Matter of fact,
Stop calling me Lenny off screen, man.
Lenny.
I've had enough of this Lenny's
Who's Lenny?
comparison.
Can somebody update me on this
Landon
He
Lenny?
gets shot because
So Lenny, like, he pets a rabbit too hard and kills it. Like, he's just retarded.
I love Lenny.
He is Lenny, bro. You lit?
You don't want to start.
have you ever
this.
seen the Looney Tunes with the abominable snowman?
Yes.
Who always grabs Bug Bunny by the neck and goes, I'm gonna love him and squeeze him and hug him and hold him.
Yeah.
That's based off of Lenny
That's
of Mice
Lenny.
and Men.
That's
We
based off
say
of Lenny,
Landon's
correct?
Lenny.
Not Landon.
And he's also, like, Lenny's, like, big and he doesn't know his own
I'm
strength.
sold on it.
I can't handle the truth. All right. What's this movie about? What's this movie about?
Easy, Lenny.
What's the movie about?
Stop talking! Just stop talking! The more you talk, you're making it worse.
Do you even know why you brought up A Few Good Men?
I do
Because
because it was the pecking order of the order getting passed down and
Yeah.
like basically shit rolls downhill. So the lowest on the totem pole gets blamed. And it seems like Bryn is kind of setting Sergi up a bit for the fall here with that regard. I don't know, man. There's a lot that we don't know still. And honestly, like, I do want to bring this up before we get into the TeamViewer stuff, because I thought that was another clear point where he skirted an answer, which was like very bad.
Very bad.
But prior to that, I do want to say, like, this is... So I want to get to the bottom of the Bryn stuff, but this is not really related to the shit that we were talking about between like Ali and Jake and a lot of like this whole RTA ring that we're pretty sure of. Like that list, that list didn't have Bryn on it, even though I knew this story for a year and a half from Martin telling me when we were snowboarding.
We all believe that Bryn doesn't use RTA.
Right,
We're like, Bryn, you don't use RTA.
like
we know you don't use RTA.
Right, like
don't
he
worry.
denounced that he's ever used RTA. It's like, bro, nobody's accusing you of using RTA at all. I promise you. Like that's not a thing.
Phil of all Phil players. Like,
Right, yeah. It's like someone in your stable probably has RTA, but like, again, that's not even the witch hunt that we're after. Like, it just sounds like there's a lot of backhanded shit that's going on behind closed doors that is very closely correlated to one of the biggest operators in our space. And we just want to know to what degree this impacts the community. How bad is it? How much of this is potentially scalable and taking advantage of weaker people, whether it's your affiliates or whether it's people like Lauren Roberts. But none of this is the same as that list of 50 from GG that were banned. Yeah. None of this is the same as that short list that I have of people that are really, really, really highly likely to not only be running RTA, but be scaling RTA by either ghosting their own stables or making the software available to their own stables, right? It's like, we know a few names that have gotten out. Like we can cross-check and see that like Brewer, Ali, Schindler, I'm trying to think like who else has been confirmed that like just haven't played on GG since that exact date, right? Like very likely that they were banned and extremely probable that it was for RTA. So I don't want to lose the sense of that story.
What timing for Ali? This
Oh,
Princess
yeah.
comes
He's
out
probably
right.
loving it. I
How
was like-
good does he run? That this
Yeah.
comes out right after.
You know who's really throwing a fucking party in Fiji right now?
Oh shit! All American
Dave. He's like, God, I'm in the right industry,
Oh my God,
man.
I didn't even remember him.
He's like, I was a story for a second.
Can I say like I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion. I don't know if it's like we'll talk about it, but all of the stuff that's going on when it comes to like the higher stakes RTA / ghosting, like this seems to really affect like a very small amount of the community. Like ghosting and RTA and stuff like that isn't happening at like low stakes, like $5 ABIs. Like,
Well, it is.
Yeah.
You know, it is just
and we also-
not at scale.
right? Like
Because
it's not
scale-
as impactful as it.
Who the hell uses RTA in a $5 buy-in?
We know who. It was $11 buy-in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So weird.
We've already heard about
How
this.
odd.
We know. He was the first one to reach out and say, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, right. So
Like,
weird.
no, you're just ghosting dudes at $11 fucking buy-ins where $800 is up top. Okay.
Bizarre. Yeah.
But
Man.
the whole point that Landon is trying to make is that it's not scalable at those stakes because they're so vast. There are so many people playing at that stake level that the same amount of bad actors at an $11 buy-in have minimal impact. Whereas if the exact same amount of people at high stakes were cheating or ghosting or whatever, the impact is massive, right? So take the WSOP 5K that they just ran this Sunday. It was a 50-person field freeze-out.
By the way, if you are the winner of that, we would love to have you on and ask a few
Sean
questions about some
Cyphers.
hands.
Sean Seifert.
Would love to get your
No,
input
I've
on
seen that name like
some
before.
hands
though.
on the
like
FT
when I
and
used to
stuff.
play in New Jersey. I think.
Yeah, he's cast a lot of online bracelet events.
No, but I've seen that name. Like, did he just stop playing for the last?
Apparently-
He played for like a
years?
half a decade.
apparently,
Okay.
like he hasn't been seen in a poker room in the last 5 years.
Okay.
Just doesn't have like that many friends in poker or whatever. But
yeah.
congrats, congratulations.
Yeah, we could loop back to that.
I mean,
That's
I don't
interesting.
need to loop. All I'm saying is that like it's very likely that in a 50-person field, if 5 people are cheating, that's gonna majorly impact
Yeah.
the ROI on
sharing
the remaining
and-
field, right? Where if 5 people are cheating at an $11 buy-in, it doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of like
There's
the
3,000 people in the
Yeah.
field.
It's like the tax you paid back in the day, sort of thing.
Kind
A
of.
little different because of like strategy and whatever, but
It's shitty, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And long term, it's very bad for the ecosystem to where it will collapse, but it's not.
It would matter if they all got deep and there were.
Yeah,
you know,
to some degree, but even
tables
that's going to be like
It's
a
hard to-
unique
yeah.
experience, right?
Exactly.
It matters the most whenever they're able to like really ramp it up for like, call it an $11 $1 million guarantee.
Right.
That like some site's doing as a promo.
Or some freeze out where they're using a bunch of different
Correct.
accounts to
Yeah.
get around the freeze out part.
and it's probably not going to happen in a tournament where there could literally be 10,000 entries plus.
I mean, it will, but it's again, there's 10,000 entries, so
Right.
it's like it's very diluted,
Yeah.
right? The whole point I'm trying to arrive at though is that this is clearly fucking happening. Like we have clear and utter evidence of it from this past Sunday on WSOP. There is near zero doubt that Sean Seifert did not win the WSOP 5K, right? It's non-zero that it could have been him, but it's 99th percentile that it wasn't. Like you just don't disappear from the world for 5 years, come back and win a small field high roller versus like some of the best online players in the United States.
Yeah.
So
It's
what
just
does-
not a thing.
What does WSOP do? 'Cause
Nothing.
There's a couple people that say like, oh, they should freeze his account and do an investigation. I don't know what that would
I don't
even
know
look
how
like.
they could
They'll
prove
do
anything.
their due diligence on their back end, but like this is just something that again you can't police. Like if someone's just on the phone with this guy who is willing to sell his account for X amount of dollars, there's nothing they can do. All they could do is stop running 5Ks, and they're not. They're actually doing the opposite. They're running one a month, and they're going to run 10Ks during the WSOP.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just like we already saw the schedule come out. The online bracelets are big. There's
they?
like 5 or 6 high roller events that are being played online. It's like, and I'm dumb enough to like max late reg.
That beat story, man. Go on.
No, I didn't. But it's like I played for 90 minutes, and in that time, I played with 2 people that didn't have a Poker Pro Lab account.
Yeah.
Not like omitted. They didn't like opt out. Like they had no record of ever having played online.
So what you're saying is like now. it's
Okay,
become-
come on.
We're in an environment. What you're saying is we're in an environment where that would be considered a good thing back then, right? Like it's like,
Right.
oh, this person is like
Right,
whale
not-
money. Yeah.
right. Like this, but now we're in an environment where you see that you're actually suspicious.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
that
It's
sucks.
just like, that's not a thing. Average recreationals. Nobody knew about this fucking 5K, man.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it until day of, an hour before the start time.
Yeah.
And I'm in the mix. No random recreational is like sitting down on their laptop on a Sunday, like, oh man, I usually play the $25 cash game on WSOP. Let's see what they got going in the. Wow. What? Okay. 5K freeze out. I like the sound of that.
These expressions are insane.
It's not that easy to get money on.
I was
it.
gonna say, let me put
It depends what
10
your limits
deposits
are.
on.
I can get like 30K on no problem.
Okay, yeah.
And if you live in Nevada or
But if you don't play, if you never,
Right,
like,
right,
like
right.
if you're someone who just doesn't play that often, can you just put 5K on and
750
fire
limit.
a tournament?
Yeah,
if you want to?
750 limit. So you got to do it a couple
Well,
times.
Yeah,
Here's my quick question
times.
for you. Even though all this stuff is going on, you would still assume that you're winning in the field during the WSOP 5K.
I honestly don't know.
Well, I mean, you're
don't know that
never
I could confidently
regging.
say
You're
that.
never regging, assuming you're losing, right? As a professional poker player.
Regging with 12 big blinds and half the field gone. I don't know that I could be so incompetent that I'm
Right,
negative
that's what I'm
EV.
saying. No one's ever regging without.
But
like
but
no professionals regging.
Yeah, but that could just be hubris. Like I don't know.
for sure. But I'm saying the question that he posed to you,
Sure.
the answer will always be like, yeah, I have an edge. Right? You're not gonna reg something without.
I mean, I'm very quick to just be humble in this spot and say like I don't know. I truly could have negative edge there and just like be
Yeah.
gambling a little bit. But
Yeah.
I think if I have negative edge, it's small.
right.
And like variance in and of itself can correct for that.
Right, because there's also people that are still in the mix that are losing at like -5
Honestly,
to negative 20%.
I don't know that
ROIs.
that's true. There was like 2 or 3 names that I think are fishy that I'm pretty confident are them.
Yeah,
But again, I'm only pretty confident, right?
Yeah.
It's like when somebody who has an ABI of like 215 is firing a 5K freeze out, like
you never know.
maybe they sold their account this week.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that unreasonable.
Yeah.
If I had seen one of those 3 names win, I certainly would have been suspicious.
Yeah,
Just like, okay, I guess you have a win rate maybe, but seems lucky.
Yeah.
Seems awfully lucky. That's my side piece. sidebar, I guess. I didn't want.
That's your side.
Yeah, my side.
Side pieces on the brain.
My side piece is
Yo,
WSOPs.
My side piece right now is
Nah.
fucking RTA.
No.
I'm married to the game,
Stop.
right?
That
But
was
I'm
a-
banging out RTA.
That was a Freudian slip.
Yeah, tell us about your side.
That was a Freudian slip.
Who's the original
who's
piece?
the main piece?
I don't know. Who's the
Well,
main
we trying to
piece?
find out what's up. Where you
Yeah,
at?
give us the
Like,
tea. What's
That's all
going
you want,
on?
buddy. There's nothing to
I
talk
hate
about.
when he says buddy. It's one of the most degrading terms.
It's almost as bad as when he
It's
says
just
Passive
poor.
aggro. Like,
It's condescending. It's very condescending.
Very patronizing.
Yep. Patronizing. Why don't patronize?
yeah,
one,
why
buddy.
you always patronize?
Don't, yeah.
So TeamViewer. TeamViewer is a program.
You might as well call me Lenny or whatever the fuck.
Poor
You say
Lenny.
Landon or Lenny?
Lenny. One and the same.
Bro, enough, dude.
So TeamViewer is a program that most people use in the poker sphere to cheat. That's it. Blatant. That's
End
what
of story.
TeamViewer is used for. Most clients will not allow you to have TeamViewer open or running while you have their client open because it's just so blatantly clear to cheat off of. In early post-Black Friday days, a lot of people would use it to, instead of VPNing, they would just use TeamViewer.
TeamViewer just you just
You can control another desktop.
a different computer from
Yeah.
your computer.
Yeah.
Correct. So like post Black Friday days, before VPN was really a thing, a lot of people would just buy computers in legal countries,
Yeah.
and then TeamView in, and
There
just
were
play that
full
way.
blown operations of
Yeah.
that.
I've heard
like
about
people
this,
had
yeah.
a business
Yep.
of this. Like set up a computer in Canada, and then you're able to TeamView into that space.
Right. And you know, it has a lot of purposes that it can serve as far as like modern day cheating. As far as like ghosting goes, obviously that's a super easy one. Now it allows you to just but to take over for the account that you're ghosting. But it can also function pretty well for RTA if you're trying to utilize a cold machine of sorts, right? Like if you don't have a data scraper, but you want to be running a program like PO or something more sophisticated that sites would otherwise pick up on their security, you could just TeamView into another cold machine, enter the information, run it real time, get the answer. That's very clunky. It's unlikely that that's a way that people are RTAing or cheating. But nevertheless, like it's very clear what TeamViewer is used to do. It's used to allocate a remote location, right? So you want to, or to access a remote location. So you want to be able to have access to a whole other machine and do something on it, right? Now, there are a lot of practical applications for this in business, particularly. Like we mostly use TeamViewer for the sake of production. So if I have a coach who's going to do a mastermind, I'll TeamView into his desktop. I'll set everything up on his side for OBS, and I'll make sure that like I can troubleshoot from far away. Sometimes like they're in different countries, sometimes they're in different states, whatever. It allows me the ability to troubleshoot the tech side of things without much interference. In general business, you would see TeamViewer getting utilized very often at the tech support level. So if you're having a problem with Windows, for instance, and you call Microsoft, they'll TeamView in and they'll do type of shit, right? There's no reason for you to ever use TeamViewer as a means of communication. It's not meant for that. Like, yes, it has those capabilities, but like you don't do a conference call on TeamViewer, right? You don't do a one-on-one chat, voice chat, video chat, anything along those lines on TeamViewer. That's
You use Zoom, Discord,
they're-
literally anything else.
literally anything else. Use your phone. You can use, like, there are 1,000 different apps that you would use for this. And the reason I bring all this up is because Sarah seemed to catch Bryn a little bit off guard with this question where she said, look, we saw this screenshot of your desktop and it has TeamViewer and NordVPN on it. Can you explain why? And he just like went on this rant about like how first he didn't answer the question directly, right? So first he just like went on this rant about how he's too busy to ghost anybody and how he's too busy to coach anyone and, you know, this is a waste of his time and all this other stuff. And she goes, right, but like these apps, why are they, I don't have TeamViewer on my computer. Why do you have it on yours? Is what she said to him. And he was just like, She's like, have you used it for coaching? Like literally trying to give him outs.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I mean, I'm trying to think. I don't think I've coached anybody, but you know, TeamViewer is a very common application. Like I just use it for calls. And it's like,
What?
okay, man. I don't think
You know what he
what
should have
TeamViewer
said?
is.
He said he
should
used
have
it for
said there was a phone scammer who told me to download it, and then he told me to go buy Target gift cards.
Through TeamViewer.
He said I needed TeamViewer to fix my computer.
I think he said
That's wild.
I think he said that he used when he was like traveling, he would use it to do business on his home computer.
Well, he eventually got to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was when, you know, it kind of dawned on him that his answers weren't very clean or crisp.
She's literally giving him out.
The reason why this is very relevant to me is because it kind of corroborates a little bit of the idea that he could potentially see Zumani's screen. So he said a few things. He said, number one, that TeamViewer just launches upon startup. Well, that doesn't have to be true. You can obviously disable
change
that.
it,
Mine
yeah.
doesn't launch at startup.
We got something.
Go on.
It seems.
Go on.
Doug just tweeted that proof via Martin Zamani, Sergi, a text from Sergi that says, he didn't tell me specific, but he said that he saw multiple instances of my screen with charts and sheets that I paid money for servers.
Alright, fine.
Plus me not letting David watch.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't feel like it really like proves anything. but-
Can you find the tweet, Andre? Or Guapo, whoever's at the helm? We'll pull that up for you guys since I didn't exactly follow Conrad's reading.
Yeah, nobody's ever going to follow my reading. You know that.
Okay, so we have the tweet up. He says, he didn't tell me specific, but he said that he saw multiple instances of my screen with charts and sheet that I paid money for, servers plus me not letting David watch. Okay, so this is a little bit out of context, but pretty interesting. I'd like to see the rest of that chat.
I know.
It does imply. So what I'm getting at with the TeamViewer stuff is that it implies that there were potential avenues for Bryn to have seen screens. Now, I don't know enough about how a Trojan would work, but it seems very probable that if you were able to install a Trojan into somebody's computer, you would utilize an application such as TeamViewer to be able to then take control or see what's going on their screen, something to that effect, right? So I would imagine that there's a correlation between those two programs. Again, I'm just speculating. I don't think that this necessarily proves guilt on Bryn's side, but I think that this tweet from Sergi is certainly indicative of the fact of corroborating what Martin was saying, that Bryn could in fact see Martin's screen some or all of the time. And again, I don't know big picture what that means, right? It demonstrates that something shitty is going on.
Means he saw all of his horses' screens.
Right, but how often was he playing against his horses, right? So like this kind of opens a whole new can of worms.
Well, that means
like,
a lot because he's playing small field high rollers, right?
I don't know. And I don't know how often he's putting his horses in that. I don't know what his stable looks like, right? But I also don't know to what degree he can scale the ability to see screens and stuff like that, because like we're talking about two horses that seem to be relatively close to him between Sergi and Martin, right?
Yeah.
But like, what about people that he signs up as affiliates beneath him? Is he able to see their screens? Is he then able to see the screens of the people that they sign up? Because now we're talking about something that like really has legs.
Yeah, it's just
right?
an open can of worms.
Yeah. Now all of a sudden we're talking about like a very in-depth cheating scandal where having that information available to you allows you to leverage it to very, very, very big plus EV spots. And that would also correlate pretty heavily with the idea of him being able to take agencies away from people. You know, if basically like they're getting smashed and, you know, complaining or putting up a fight versus Bryn saying they're not going to pay or whatever the case, like if he's putting them in a position where they're losing so badly that like they refuse to pay, or he has outstanding debt with a lot of the people beneath him. Because again, remember he was funding everything in the early going.
Yeah.
Everything. There was no way, and I know this for a fact, like I played very briefly on GG through Bryn, and it was all on the honor system. He would just put money in my account, and if I lost, I would send him a bit. And that was it. So it's like, you know, this was all reputation-based, it was all trust-based, and to my knowledge, he's never come out and outed anybody for not paying. Well, he certainly didn't get paid by
Lauren.
by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, not just Lauren, but like a lot of people, I would assume, right? People who have names in this industry for sure rugged him at some point. Why is he not coming out against them, right? There has to be something. And if the ability to steal agency is a part of that, that could make a lot of sense as to where he was, basically ensuring that he was never going to be on the hook, which pretty interesting. I guess that does bring me then to Lauren, and they dedicated a fair portion of the pod to his relationship with her. I spoke with her on the phone before we did this. Most of it was off the record, so I don't want to get like too deep into it, but she largely corroborated what he said about the relationship, like basically saying that like they very quickly became good friends. She welcomed him into her home. They did a lot of traveling together. Nothing really new from that front.
Yo, was Sarah out of line saying if they had a romantic relationship? Because like she's married, bro.
Yeah,
That's
but
nuts.
I think it's like,
I mean, I don't know. Like,
I think it's a
wouldn't-
fair question to ask.
It's a fair question. I'm
Yeah,
I'm legit asking if it's a fair
I
question.
feel like it's fair, but it's sort of the kind of thing that's, what do you expect him to say? Yes? Like, he's not going to say yes even if there was.
Well, he did
so.
imply, so she actually said this to me on the phone. He did imply that like he felt Lauren was into him or whatever. And she kind of like dismissed it as like, this is a joke. I'm happily married and I'm like,
Right.
1.5 times his age.
Yeah.
This just like wasn't a thing. I wanted to get better at poker. And at the time that they met, she said Bryn was like in a really shit spot, which he admitted to. He said he was like $3 million in makeup or whatever. And was kind of bottom of the barrel. So it seemed like two roads colliding
I
at a
think
very
she said
opportune
10
time.
in her tweet.
No. She said that he was in the hole for 10. I
Oh.
think like career wise or something.
I don't think it was career wise. I think it was just like,
just
so he
now?
said on the pod that he was 3 point some million in makeup and 1 million ish in debt. She's basically just saying it was double that.
So
See, from
much
what I got
money.
from her tweet was
A lot
that he
of
was
comment.
10 million in the whole lifetime.
No,
Oh, okay.
no,
Okay.
for sure not. Like he's had his ups and downs, but like for sure is a profitable player.
Okay.
But yeah, it's tough to say. Basically the takeaway I had from my conversation with Lauren is that she's obviously very hurt by all of this. She doesn't really want to be a spectacle or be a part of some circus that is trying to get to the bottom of something that is a lot deeper than I think we can understand.
What's your vibes though? Like, what are your vibes?
Their stories seem to align a lot. Like, I think that I think both her and Martin are telling mostly whole truths, if not complete truths. And I think that Bryn is telling partial truths. That's everything I can gather. And that's based off of just like decades of hearing a lot of underhanded shit about Bryn that, kind of align with this type of stuff. Like I mentioned, back in the early 2000s, whenever he went from, up a couple million to like down a couple million in debt to everybody. And he even corroborated this on the pod. He said that absolutely happened. But he kind of spun it as like, but everybody that I ever owed, I paid back. And like, my name is gold in this industry, yada, yada, yada. It's like, well, be that as it may, like everything that I heard around that time was that he was pretty much setting up ghosting operations in order to recoup all that money, right? Ghosting operations, collusion rings, a lot of it centered around his brother and, his horses, things of that nature. So it's like, I don't necessarily know who to believe. We haven't seen any hard evidence one way or the other, but there's a lot of speculation that keeps aligning over and over and over again to quick money grab type of concepts. So yeah, I mean, I think that, without going into too much detail, I think that she did say that like he absolutely played on her account, and that she was a witness to like other, call it gray type of behavior, and I think that's a fair term to use because like we don't know to what degree things like charts and ghosting and shit like that is necessarily bad. I just think that like I'm interested to see how the Sergi thing plays out. I don't think he's gonna let himself get thrown under the bus.
So Sergi's close with Bryn, right?
Yeah, he's like his number one horse.
Okay. But he is.
But he has a lot of shit
cooperating-
piling up on him.
He's cooperating with Martin or no?
No.
No, right? But what was that text with the Doug thing?
It seems like it was a text that was just between Martin and Sergi at some point. I don't know if it came today.
Yeah.
Or if it, is an older text or something like that. But I will say that, there's a lot of shit piling up on Sergi's back, right? Like, he's accused of ghosting Martin, and that seems to be corroborated by multiple people now. He's accused of using RTA, and to at least a lesser degree, it's confirmed that he used charts.
Didn't he start with the Ali camp?
I don't know. Landon, do you know that?
Don't know what.
If Sergi was a part of the Ali camp.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know that either. He's accused of overall RTA and is banned from GG for something. So we don't necessarily know what.
Yeah.
But Bryn is basically taking no responsibility of any of this and kind of saying yo, that's my man, but that's all on him.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking about Justin Saliba.
Oh yeah, two totally different people.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious to see how this plays out publicly, and what's going on behind the scenes there. It's one of those things too where it's he could easily be the straw that breaks the camel back, right? So this could go one way or the other. It could be a scenario where him and Bryn are so close that Sergi will just remain loyal from now till the day he dies, and they're kind of like the organized crime system. It's you just never turn on the boss, and he's a made man and will always be made whole if he doesn't snitch and does the time for Bryn, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Or there's another scenario where it's just he gets sick of being the fall guy, and there isn't anything in it for him to keep his mouth shut, and he has some clear evidence via text messages, via some sort of exchange, via being able to demonstrate that he could see his screen, whatever.
So what's your read on Sergi?
I don't know. I don't know him very well
What's
at all.
What's your vibes? Do you think you think he's made man, or you think he's?
Is he Sammy the Bull?
I don't know Sergi very well at all. I had one interaction with him at the Win where we were on dinner break with him and Landon and a few others, and he seems like a really sweet, nice guy.
Oh fuck!
That I genuinely I was very shocked to even know that he was backed by Bryn or that he was involved in this in any way, shape, or form at all. I just thought he was kind of a self-made good player. He's a part of that Spanish group that I would hold in very high regards. So I don't know, man. I know that there's probably some pride to his rep, and he probably doesn't want to be dragged through the mud. So we'll see how all this shakes out in the long run. It's really tough to tell. I'm just flabbergasted by the whole thing, to be honest. Between watching that interview and then talking to Lauren immediately afterwards, it's my brain is just kind of scrambled with a whole bunch of there were so many words said and so few points made or refuted. You know what I mean?
I feel you. I mean, it feels like you're in the middle of it almost.
Fuck, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm just here to report the shit that gets thrown my way because I don't want to be a part of something that is scandalous.
I'm scared for you.
Maybe
you know too much.
Please kill me.
At some point, you know too much.
Please
shoot the
think
messenger.
that I'm the reason that shit's getting out and put an end to it all. Let me die with honor.
We should just give them our
You
address.
can't seppuku.
Yeah, then we're gonna have to.
Andre and I talk about seppuku all the time.
Seppuku.
We're just going to go to
Then we're
Japan
gonna have
to the
to
forest
run-
of death.
We're gonna have to run the Ghost of Berkey's Past Twitter account.
Oh
in your
yeah, we do.
Don't worry. I'm doing all the
Do you
legwork for
do
you
you
guys.
have your are they scheduled?
Yeah,
for,
I'm doing everything for
I mean,
you.
so
I have
Berkey
a
has
list.
all the Ghost of Berkey, so he's had us
He has
agree.
scheduled tweets.
He's made us agree that after he passes, we must release a whole line of tweets, just
got
basically
drafts.
fuck you, I hate
cheat,
you, always
you're a
hated you,
cocksucker.
just
Here's
sort
every
of
name on that list.
Putting it all out there. So
Yeah, here's the
we're in
list.
charge of releasing that under the name of the Ghost of Matt Berkey.
Now I might become a martyr. Now somebody might kill me just for the sake.
I know.
We
Really
will
good.
also
See it.
have Gatsby laying on your grave. When
I
it
appreciate that.
happens. And
I'm
that'll be
very
tweeted
confident
for all.
at 10 now. His birthday's Friday. Shout out to the
think
pup.
Berkey's going before
I'm
Gatsby?
very confident that
Well, it's for Matt's own opium.
If I were to die tomorrow, I think Gatsby would be very, very short in this world.
Yeah, I know.
Just
He
got
would.
so morbid right
That's
now.
what happens.
He would cry a lot.
It's like when two dogs grow up together and then
Yeah.
like one dies, the other one dies right after.
Yeah, or like
Well, sometimes.
married
Oh my
couples.
god.
I heard married
common.
couples, like if one person dies, the other person's life expectancy goes way down.
I've heard that,
happens
too.
a lot.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
lose the will, especially if one's
Well, in
like
old
a
novels
caregiver
and
of the other
stuff.
one, and then
Yeah.
they kind of like lose that.
Right.
I lost
That-
the will
that
like 30
happens.
years ago.
You know?
Where the fuck's my expiration
Stop.
date?
In old novels, they used to have people were always dying of misery in old novels. I wonder if that's just a nice way of saying they were.
Did George die after
But-
shooting Lenny?
George shot Lenny? I don't remember that
Yes.
detail.
Yes. Have you read of
Have you
Mice and
read
Men?
Mice and Men?
Bro, I'm ancient, man. I read it 35 years
You
ago.
forgot the conclusion.
You read it when
Well,
he
I
was
knew he died. I just couldn't
He's
remember.
looking away.
I
and
didn't
he
realize
shoots
it was
him
an
in the
old
back of
Yeller
the
type
head.
situation.
Yeah.
He took
has
him
to.
behind the barn.
Damn, GG Old Yeller.
Yeah,
I've
for
never
some
read
reason
that
I
either.
thought I might be like conflating it with the Scarlet Letter. Did they like?
Never read
Did
that.
they burn her at the stake? When it was all
Come
said
on,
and
man.
done?
No, it was a.
What
Was
did
it
they
the Salem
reasonable.
witch hunt? Am I mixing that up with another?
I think maybe the Crucible.
Oh, the Crucible.
I
Great
had-
one.
Wow, you know what? I never read the
one.
Crucible. I
What
watched the
are
movie.
these things you guys
No.
are
I
talking
had
about?
read the Crucible actually.
What are they're all books?
These were
Yeah,
all mandatory. If you would have made it to
The
eighth
Crucible
grade,
was a
That's
play.
nice.
Oh, I lied.
The Crucible was a play.
if you would have made it to eighth grade, you would have read all of these.
I lied. I saw the movie. I didn't
No.
read the book.
Yeah,
the
I was
play.
told to read the
No.
book and then I watched the movie.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
was a good movie.
It was okay.
I remember it because we had to read it out loud in class, and I got called on to like be one of the parts, and I was like so nervous. I was really like I was a lot more shy in high school.
This
so.
is a hilarious
I'm sure you
aside
did
to
great.
that. In sixth grade, we used to do science lessons where we would read the text out loud. I don't know why the teacher thought this was a good idea.
We
like,
always did
Yeah,
that.
I always
too.
did that. That was
science
the
is
thing.
just so fucking boring
The
that like if
popcorn
everybody takes their
meeting.
turn.
Yeah.
So myself
No one can ever
and
pronounce it.
myself and this kid Sean Hess, we were in Pollock's class. You wouldn't know. You got moved because of the Renee
You
incident.
got dropped down.
You dropped down in stakes.
This is a whole,
Wait, and what kind of class?
Renee
this is a whole other story.
Yo, did he
Brian-
drop down in stakes because he didn't do yoga?
No, Brian
your
was
story.
supposed,
Tell your
Brian,
story.
Brian was supposed to be in my sixth grade class, but this girl who at the time was like the
my
most popular
God.
girl in school, he was dating her. She broke up with him for Sean, who I'm talking about
Oh,
now.
shit.
And he got mad and said something very, very uncouth at lunch.
Ryan, what did you say?
And she told
Say it.
she told her mom and the
I don't even know
teacher,
what he's talking about.
Mrs. Long, who eventually told the principal. And then whenever so this happened at the end of the school year, right? We were already scheduled for our sixth grade class. And it was supposed to be me, Brian, Sean, and Renee all in the same sixth grade class. There were 3 classes. Well, they had to move him out because he couldn't be in the same class.
Wow.
Must have been bad.
What did he say?
Yeah, what did you
I think
say?
he probably called her a
Move
whore
on.
or
Next,
something.
next.
Brian, what did you say,
We
Brian?
can't say what he said.
No,
It-
no,
it's,
really?
it's
Is it
not
really
for,
that bad?
It was
It's not for his
bad.
virgin ears,
You know,
though, man.
Wait,
it was
wait,
in fifth
was it-
grade, and someone told me to say something, and I just.
Kids in
The end result was she
fifth
took
and
one of those
sixth grade
cherry
kids are
icy
mean.
juices and threw it all over his white Penn State
Oh,
hoodie.
man.
Wow.
I deserved
This was
it,
a
but
dramatic
man, it hurt.
breakup.
That was bad.
Yeah.
He also punched her
crazy.
brother in the face over it.
Oh my god.
I respect that. You know what, though?
Violence is not the answer.
Oh my god.
You learn
Freedom
a lot
of
of things
speech.
when you're from a 10th or 10
was-
years old.
With
Yeah.
Also, her
He
brother's
was
gay. so-
passionate.
Her brother's also gay, so it was kind of a hate crime.
Wow, you punched a gay guy.
Man.
He wasn't out yet. He wasn't out yet.
Man.
You knew.
This is a double
He
whammy.
confided in you.
And the whole thing started because he had a crush on Brian while he was dating his sister.
Nah.
What else we got? What else we got? What
This is
else we
all
got?
lies.
He really did?
He
No,
did.
this is mostly
he
false.
did.
but-
It was yeah. So he.
Yes,
it
it's
was-
coming
no,
out.
No, it was just funny because like we're in like 5th grade or 4th grade, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like you were." I told Renee you were using her. I'm like, using her for what? Like
is-
to get popularity.
No,
Wow.
Brian
I didn't like that. I didn't
Such
like
a
that
clever
at all.
tonguing girls
Brian.
down in the 5th grade.
Enough, dude. Enough.
He had some
Finger popping,
game.
baby.
bro. You were wild.
Wow.
Right, so the whole
Wild boy.
now that we got that out of the way, the story I was trying to tell is when we were reading science class.
Oh, yeah.
we would always be reading about organisms, and he and I would just always say orgasms.
Of course. Of course. Yeah.
So would stand up in front of the class and be like, a single-celled orgasm.
Jeez.
And you just stare at people until they laugh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
that used to happen when I was growing up too.
Yeah, kids,
But
man.
kids would say it by accident, and then everyone would laugh, and their face would get so red.
I'm
that's
plus
even
one
better.
on
What did I
this
do?
one. I remember this
happened to you?
happening too. I never
Yeah.
said the orgasm part.
Lenny
but
was up there
someone
going,
has said,
"Oh, orgasm," and they're like,
Why don't you guys know that shit
no,
isn't funny?
man.
Another
said it.
funny Renee story. So we were in honors English together in 8th grade, and she was so shy, like the most quiet, shy girl on the planet. And I was sitting adjacent to her, so like one
"Is
row
this the
back,
one you
one row
blamed
to
a
the
fart
left.
on?"
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And I like lift my cheek to try to get a silent one out. I'm the only guy in the fucking class. So it's like me and 18 girls. And I like lift the cheek to try to squeak one out, and it just goes. And I just immediately like look up and I go, Renee!
See, it sounds
She
like
died. She physically
yeah,
died.
that's terrible. That is so embarrassing.
What do you
for
want me to
her. You have to own up to it. It's okay when guys
No.
fart in middle school. When girls fart, it's like the end of the world.
Yeah, that's fine. Better her than me.
I did my best
I wasn't in
to
a
challenge
social
that
place where I
stigma,
could take
but
the blame.
gosh,
Oh man,
Poor girl.
Good
terrible.
times.
Middle
Good
school
times.
was
good. This is like 1950.
Fuck off.
This was like,
Relax, Lenny, or you're gonna take it out behind the barn.
I got a long life to live, hopefully.
All right, that trip down memory lane was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a lot more to say about the interview. I guess. Do you guys have any feedback or input from like what you saw?
I think to the outside public, like, Bryn came off pretty good.
well,
From what I watched, like anybody outside without any other knowledge would say. he was pretty
my
innocent.
thing is though
He seems
that
what?
whenever
Innocent.
someone feels the need to keep reiterating that they are a kind and helpful person and that this and that, and it's like you're not. Like usually when people are trying to convince you explicitly that like I am this type of person and I'm this, I just immediately in my head I'm like you're not, because you wouldn't have to say that.
It was
if
pretty
you were.
wild to hear him revert to that defense so many. Like it was
Yeah.
very jarring.
But he said that's the way he speaks though, because like
Nah.
do you remember the Joe Ingram interview?
Yeah.
It was very similar.
For some of it, he definitely speaks to women differently than men, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, I
We
mean
talked
we
about
could
this.
go back in his reply. I totally noticed this going. I was just doing a little digging in his replies, and yeah, no, like to women it's, oh, the world is so beautiful if you just be grateful for your life and everything will work out. And then it's like guys, it's like crossbook me, homie, fuck you, man.
Shout out to all the dads out there.
It's like what's going on here?
Yeah.
we can see this, right?
I think that like even like looking back on the Ingram interview, like whenever he gets pressed about the Doug stuff and the things that are a little bit more confrontational, he definitely reverts back to that like sense of arrogance of I'm the best in the world, like come at me, champ, type of speech. And there was none of that. This was so calculated.
Yeah.
But like in such a Trumpian way, right? Like to just constantly, it reminded me of that, like to constantly just keep saying like, I'm just this guy who's like really looking to help other people, and like sometimes that doesn't work out in my benefit.
I don't
because
know
I'm such
all the people I know who are like the most helpful, selfless people never say stuff
Yeah,
like
you
that.
don't really
Yeah, you
talk
want to know
about
why?
it.
Because those people understand that it's as much of a detriment as it is a positive characteristic.
Yeah.
It's like I have a
100%.
lot of problems in my life because I can't
Or
help.
like, how do I stop
help.
self-sacrificing?
Yeah, exactly.
Or like if you do something out of the goodness of your heart, you don't try to get a compliment for it. You do it because you want to.
Exactly. And he kept saying that too. He's like, well, I'm not looking for praise or acknowledgement for like all of the help I've done. But like,
I'm
if
also
you
the
just
best of all
ask
time.
anybody,
Yeah.
they'll tell you like Bryn Kenney is the #1 helpful person
Yeah.
in the world. It's like, honestly, I wanted to come into this and like try to give as much of an objective perspective as possible and give Bryn the benefit of the doubt. But it's just really fucking hard whenever you watch somebody politic their way through an interview.
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't go on an interview like that without preparing for it PR-wise and with a lawyer probably to not incriminate yourself. Like, it's very...
Well, yeah, but there are a lot of ways to not incriminate yourself that don't look like what we just saw.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
it
think
looks like
that's how
Howard
he
Letter.
is, though, isn't it? Like, that's sort of just how he's always been. Like,
I
sort of
guess.
that type
I
of-
always like every time I see like Bryn Kenney, it's that Bryn Kenney
Yeah.
often like this. So I'm not that surprised, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like yeah, I agree when you're talking about his poker game and things like that. Like yeah, he's very like like, nah, bro, I'm the best. And
It's
whatever.
kind of interesting
maybe
how
he
it
is, maybe-
segments, like his
Right.
personality segments that way.
Right. Yeah, so I wasn't surprised, Burke, to see it. And like what Conrad said, I think to the outside person, he does come off like he's innocent.
You don't really have to
Like-
defend yourself much if you did nothing wrong, right? Like if they said, "Oh, like did you do this?"
Well,
and you just say no.
If you're being accused of stuff, I
Right.
think your impulse is to defend yourself.
Well, if you didn't do anything wrong, you wouldn't have to make like an essay out of a statement, right?
Right.
If someone says, "Did you do
I
this
mean,
thing?" and you know
yeah.
in your heart the answer is no, you just say, "No, I didn't."
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like interesting content out there in the true crime sphere that they look at people who have been wrongfully accused and how the body language looks and sort of the different.
reads?
Yeah, kind of.
There's a lot of
I mean,
shifting
I'm just
in the chair.
I'm
Did
interested
you notice
in that.
from Bryn? I mean,
There was
I
a
don't,
lot
I don't know how much to
of
read into
movement,
that,
but-
but she'd
but,
ask
you
him a
know.
question where like and he was just like shifting around, and then he would like tell his.
I mean, he's definitely
side.
uncomfortable.
You did
Yeah,
catch
of
the main
course.
event, Brian.
I mean, what?
you did catch the main event. You know a little thing
You
or
know
two about
how
live
some guy
reads.
shifted in his seat, and then I called.
He had nothing. He had nothing.
Yeah, I mean, the
Then I
thing
folded
about
queens.
the body language stuff is that different people have different like ways of showing things, but there's also just ways people act in terms of like getting angry or not. Like when someone's being interrogated and they're wrongfully accused, a lot of times you'll see them get angry
Yeah.
because they're like, this is not true. Like, what the
Right.
fuck are you talking about? Whereas someone who is guilty will be kind of like, what do you have to prove that? There's no evidence of that.
Let me
It's-
ask you guys a series of questions and just give me, short answers, and then we can kind of wrap. But first and foremost, do we think that this interview gave us any more like insight on what was going on?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
We didn't learn shit.
It's just a save face PR piece.
Well, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I take it back. It actually corroborates like that there is something because like everything is hand in hand. Like we don't have any evidence of anything, but Bryn saying like, yes, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot that's hand in hand. We just don't have the full evidence. to
Right.
really put
Effectively,
it-
like we're getting some glimpses as to what the overall scope of this is. There's some truth to it. Like there are partial truths at least,
Yeah.
where both Martin and Bryn's story overlap. But it's really difficult to know to what degree Martin's lying or telling the truth.
Yeah.
Same with Bryn, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, from the vantage point of Poker News and Sarah, what would you guys like to have seen done differently, assuming that the precursor to this interview was that it had to be Sarah who gave it?
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
I think she was in a tough spot.
she's definitely a tough.
So I don't know. Maybe a little bit more assertiveness in like this, saying this is just a yes or no question.
I would have liked if Poker News would have declined the interview, and
I kind
asked
of
them to
agree
go
with that
somewhere else.
actually.
Because
Yeah.
it's
conflict of interest.
exactly
because
Yeah.
like you can't do this. Like
they're too
you just
close.
let him run around
Yeah.
rampant, and
Right.
whereas somebody else in the community would have not let that
I
happen.
think that that's a fair point. And again, we don't know what the stipulations were, but
Yeah,
I
they
think
can't
I think Conrad's point is I wouldn't have, if I'm Poker News, I wouldn't let Bryn dictate the
Yeah,
stipulations.
like
Yeah,
so
but
his
still,
angle
like,
was
let's look
I'm
at
not
it
I'm
in
not
terms
doing
of the
it
business
without
of Poker News. Like they getting this interview an exclusive is probably pretty good for them. Poker News needs these
It-
Yeah,
clicks.
it's tough.
But
That's
it-
tough for them
the
to
problem
turn
is-
that down.
the problem is it's for the
course.
good of poker.
Here's
Like
the
when
thing
you think
though.
about it.
Do you think so?
Well, they don't know what he's gonna. They don't know
Well,
what
no,
he's gonna
you
say
do.
or not.
You do. Bryn said, "Hey, only you. You're the only
yes,
person
only
I know."
you. But at the
'Cause
same
she'll
Why
make
is
time,
that?
the interview wasn't prepped. Bryn, as far as we know, and what he said, he didn't know what questions were coming.
But he did.
Come on,
So
man.
here's,
But he's-
here's
I'm
my
just saying.
question.
I'm just
There's a
saying.
reason why you only got
I
one
agree.
person-
I'm not saying
one
they
person
gave
only.
him. I'm not
Time
saying
out.
they gave him that.
I
but-
agree that Bryn probably knew this was going to be a softball interview because it's his friend,
Yeah. I mean,
and it's
that's
like,
why he
okay, I'm
said
going to give
only
you the
her.
interview because you're not going to like throw me under the bus,
But-
and that's fair.
Okay, my question is his angle was that he would only do the interview if it was her and then not otherwise. Do you really do you think that if they said no, because otherwise he actually doesn't get to say his side of the story. So do you think that he maybe actually would have come back and say, "Okay, I will do it"?
I think
I
he
don't
would
think so.
say.
I don't
hold on,
think
hold on.
so.
I think
I
he
think
would.
it dies
I
right
think he
there.
would say, I would have done an interview with Poker News, but because they won't let Sarah do it, I'm not
But
doing
that looks
it.
bad.
I don't think he would say that.
No.
Well,
he wouldn't
either
say
that,
that.
or I think his ego just lives on and he goes on an interview with somebody else.
Yeah,
think
that's
he'd
what
have came
that's
on
what I
Like,
was
he
thinking.
gets
Because-
funneled into a corner where like he just has to go on an interview with somebody.
I think
Maybe.
it- I think
don't
it
know if
dies.
that's necessarily true.
I
It
think
might not
just-
be. It might not be true, but like
I think it
it's
dies,
possible.
or we. Yeah,
I also think it's
honestly
possible that
does.
it could have went the route of Poker Go as well. Like
I mean,
he has-
not for nothing.
he has
He's
a good
also
relationship there.
he's
Yeah.
also still trying to launch a site coming up. So
Well,
like
maybe. Funny, I actually have the pitch deck. Somebody forwarded the pitch deck to me. It's pretty fucking wild. I'll share it. I'll share it next podcast. It's too late now. I don't have it prepped.
Okay.
But we can talk about it next time. For a pitch deck that's trying to raise like deca millions, it's very underwhelming. Let's put it that way.
Melissa, weren't you looking for a 100x shitcoin?
Yes.
Why don't you just go ahead and invest
Tag
in
me in, I'm
Britain's,
ready.
It's up to
it's
you.
gonna 100x.
Is there going to
so-
be a token or?
To be
Yeah,
fair,
it's
the pitch deck does not imply it will 100x in
Okay,
any way,
but he
shape, or
said it
form.
was gonna
But his
100x.
text
I
said it
understand.
would, so I believe him. And I'm looking for 100x.
There's your
shitcoin.
I mean, the
100x
shaman
shitcoin
said
right
it would
there.
100x, but like, you know.
Right. I went to the shaman and she told me, you need 100x and it's in Bryn's token.
Sure.
He's coming out with a
Is the
token.
extra- is the
It's called
extra
Bryn
shit-
Shiba Inu.
It's not called Bryn Frog.
Bryn Shiba Inu Elon Rocket Coin.
It's up to you though. 100% up to you if
Yeah.
you want to invest. In that.
I'm in 100%, all in.
I think the follow-up questions from Sarah, where she opened it up to like the public, I guess, were questions that, like, yeah, it's funny, like the frogs and the stuff, but it's like really not. That's like whatever.
Yeah,
Like, we don't
whatever.
need-
Like,
we
he's
don't
allowed
need-
to do that in his personal
Yeah,
time.
it's like, okay, if you have like some sort of understanding with your horse that it's like, hey, if you eat Taco Bell, like that's like we're trying to better you. Like I'm not gonna put you in. Okay, yeah, is it like not a standard deal? Sure, but there's
Is
nothing
it
like
weird?
against.
Sure, but it's not illegal.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
okay, like maybe that's the
It's just
arrangement.
memeable, though.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
it's just a little funny, but I
yeah.
think we wasted a little bit of time on if we're really trying to get to the shits, like in some other stuff.
Yeah, I don't think that matters.
I mean, if Ali was, having people do frog poison and RTA, that would have been a bigger story. But unfortunately, there was only the RTA, no frogs.
Right. Well, that we know of anyway.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
I
from
don't know.
from the interview perspective, I would have just liked to have seen a lot more matter of factness from Sarah. Just a lot more of like, I asked yes or no, please just answer yes or no. And there were a couple times throughout the interview where she kind of volunteered an answer. I
Yeah.
don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but they were talking about something cheating related, and she kind of like volunteered like, I've never even heard of something like this, or basically like spoon fed him plausible deniability,
Yeah.
This is what happened.
which I think is like really
I
bad.
could see this happening. Like they're about to start the interview, they're friends, and she's like, all right, off the record, just tell me what's up. And he's like, I didn't do anything. And then he's like, okay. Then they start the interview.
no, of course.
And
of
they start
course.
the interview, and it's like she starts the interview with a slight bias.
Well, she
and it's
openly
like-
admitted
yeah.
that. She started the interview by saying, like, Bryn and I are friends.
Yeah.
This is going to be very hard for me. There's going to be a lot of pushback. Bear with me. I'm going to do the best that I can. And I do
And
think
that's respect. Like I respect
yeah,
that.
I agree. I
Yeah.
love Sarah to death. I think
Yeah.
that like, she's very good at what she does. But like, this is a totally different ask. Like, generally speaking, she's asked to interview people about,
Yeah.
their
Something
accomplishments
happy,
and their
something
achievements
good,
and
yes.
and all these things. Like, she's
About
not
not-
asked to
and
be
her personality lends great to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody's asking her to be an investigative reporter. And also, like, the turnaround time on this was very quick. I'm sure that they scheduled the interview somewhere between yesterday and today, right? And it's not like she had done or been asked even to do a lot of digging. So it's kind of like the Parvis thing. Like, I always excused him for kind of dropping the ball there too, because it's like, what do you expect? That's not what these guys are in the industry to do, right? They're not here to uncover scandal and true crime type stuff.
No, absolutely.
And nobody's giving them enough lead time to actually do investigative journalism, right?
And
Nobody's
it's not
giving
even
them.
like they would even do that. Like
I mean, they could maybe. I don't know to what degree that they're
We
qualified
need
or
Bob
unqualified.
Walters.
Chris Walton's out of a job now that CNN Plus went down, so he
Sure.
did it.
We can get him in this
Yeah,
industry.
it seems better to just not have done it, I guess.
Yeah, I think
That's a
I think
pretty
it's a
good
poker
take.
news dropping the ball type thing, not really a Sarah Herring dropping the ball type thing.
Yeah.
But I
I
also see why
definitely
they
was-
did. Of course, they're going to take that exclusive interview. I mean,
Right.
Of course
I
they
was
are.
definitely
But I think it's a
implying
bad
that.
look overall.
I was
Yeah.
implying that poker
Yeah.
news dropped the ball. Not
No,
Sarah.
no, I understand.
yeah.
Okay, so-
And I think for them as a company, it's a very bad look. Like getting that exclusive is not a good thing if the overall collective feedback is
What the fuck?
you guys fucked this.
Yeah.
And there are 5 independent sources that would rather see do this interview that aren't news outlets getting paid bunches of dollars by a bunch of affiliates and whatnot
Yeah.
to basically report the news within our industry. And again, like this brings back the whole bigger conversation of just like media in this industry is tragic, right? Like to call yourself poker news and not be able to objectively report the news
Yeah.
is pretty fucking problematic.
I mean,
You
it would
know?
have been fine if it was someone that like didn't have a relationship with Bryn,
It
right?
may have been fine. We
Yeah,
don't
we
know,
don't know.
man.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know because
that's why we.
That's why
wish
we
they
need
declined.
Bob
that's the thing. At the end of
Walters.
the day, they're not employing journalists necessarily.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's not that different than the operation we're running. We're
Yeah.
not journalists.
No.
Right. We're just in the industry and have insider
Just a bunch of
information
freaks.
that we're
Literally
able to
just a
share
bunch of
some of the
idiots.
time.
Yeah.
But like none of us are qualified as journalists, and we don't pretend to be.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things where it's like just unfortunate for poker as a whole that we're not getting information in the way that we absolutely should.
We
and
need
that-
an investigative news source, journalists. If you're looking for something to do, start a poker.
true.
Let's start a, not us, but that we're not qualified for that. But maybe there could be like a true crime sector of poker that could be
honestly-
very interesting.
I
start
honestly
with
see
Eddie
the
Duke again.
unfortunate part being this: that, like Bryn's gonna be able to like say, "Hey, I had an interview." He kind of
yeah.
just gets to roll it off his shoulder.
Yep.
Like
He's
when
like,
it
"I
comes,
did my
as
part.
it goes
I
on,
said what I said."
he
But
can
we
just say,
knew that the end result of this was always like he didn't even have to do the interview. The end
Of course.
result was
Right.
always going to be this was going to get dropped.
Of course.
Yeah.
But the interview gives him like, "Hey, I said my part."
Yeah.
Like whereas
To be
if-
fair though, he did us more of a favor than himself. Because like now this gets to be a topic of conversation for another day or two. Where it's like we were gonna do something totally we weren't gonna cover this today.
No.
It wasn't gonna be something to talk
It's gonna
about.
be all Pirates,
yeah.
Oh,
Pirate baseball, top
and they didn't even
bottom.
play yesterday.
I would have left. I would
I
have
would have
left.
also left.
It would just be Brian. Brian's solo
it'd be
podcast,
Brian and
ranting
Matt.
about the Pirates.
Let me tell you
Not for
something
nothing,
about
I like-
these
I like
Pirates.
I
sitting here
really
for it.
think they're gonna make it.
I don't know where they're going, but they're
You
making
can
it.
do it.
They're gonna get that 72 wins.
A lot of conviction in those
72
words.
wins.
A lot of conviction in those words.
What's the bet you guys have?
What's
It's over. He won.
Oh, you won. Okay.
What?
You should've told him.
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
last
it's
last
over.
couple things? Like, okay, so there's been some rumblings of having Carrie Katz have a statement, and do we think that Jake and Ali ever say anything?
No, and no.
No.
I don't think either of them speak. Bryn didn't name Carey as his backer, even though like allegedly we all know that that's who the money man was behind his career, or his most recent success, I guess. And as far as like Jake and Ali go, like why would you ever talk?
Jake, Ali, and I don't know.
Like why
Yeah.
talk?
Yeah.
This is just gonna get swept away,
Right.
Yeah.
right? Like at best they're gonna, or at worst they're gonna get dirty looks the next time that they play.
Look at what
And
happened.
Ali won 2 events in the last 10 days. Like nobody
Jesus fucking
Three.
Christ.
He doesn't
Three
care.
cares.
right? It's like it's the same as like whoever ghosted this 5K win. Again, we're not even talking about Mark Herm right now, right? Who very probably was the ghost for Sean Sievert, as he's a New Jersey reg, and we know that he does this type of stuff. But like we just dropped it all over again because
mean,
it's like,
Yeah,
what are we gonna do?
but to be fair, I don't know. Maybe most people would think this is not really a huge deal, but I think that like the public deserves to know if people that they are rooting for got to where they are by unscrupulous ways.
That I
And-
agree with.
And I think even if it doesn't result in any huge changes rules wise or whatever, I think I would want to know if my favorite player the whole time was cheating.
And that's why if that podcast gets to 100K views, Matt fucking Berkey's going to tell you about 38 of them.
38.
There's 38 people on that list.
No.
Oh.
And that probably just won't ever happen. Like I'm not in the business of defamation, and like even though I think a lot of these people on the list are guilty of one thing or another, and I have a high degree of confidence of it, it's not like Jake and Ali where we have confirmation that they are absolutely banned from GG. So like there's an anchor we can hang our hat on where we know for a fact that they were banned from GG and have money confiscated. And it's like the second we know that, we can at least start to make suggestions or speculations as to why and like what else is going on, and it gives credence to a lot of the rumors.
Yeah.
For everybody else, like it's just flying under the radar. Like it's people that we think are supplying the RTA. It's people that we think are running ghosting stables. It's people that we think are doing a lot of these things. And there's some rumors floating around from a lot of different sources that corroborate it. And it's like, well, how would these two sources ever meet in the middle whenever they don't have any interaction? So it's like, logically, we can deduce that they're probably true, but I don't have enough of a degree of confidence to just like come out and say like, okay, these 10 people are definitely guilty of these 10 things, and you guys should all be very weary doing business with them moving forward.
Yeah.
On that note,
100,000
today
views.
was a very interesting one. We're going to put
I'm
a bow
ready
on
to
it.
have a pod where we talk, you know, like not poker stuff, like
what?
like funny stories, and like let's talk some tea about our personal lives, and I'm gonna dig into what you guys have been up
what's
to.
the side
Definitely not
piece?
showing up for that
Who's
one.
What's that side
who's Berkey's
piece?
side? Who do you guys think Berkey's side piece is? Tell us in the comments.
Who do you think his main
Who's his
squeeze
main
is?
piece? That's my
I don't
question.
have a main piece. I don't know what you guys are
I
talking
don't know.
about.
Who is your main piece?
Where'd you go last night? I heard you left the house mad
Yeah,
late.
where'd you go
I wanted to
last
play pickleball.
night? We're
Oh,
gonna
all
we're
right.
gonna grill Berkey on his
Just
personal
saying.
life.
I
If you
left
had
at
a main piece, you
7:30.
wouldn't have a side
Everybody
piece. You're not
said
like
in the room,
that.
they were
I
like,
don't
yo,
have time
you went
for
out
either.
mad
Bro,
late
how many
yesterday.
times is the water bottle
Every
gonna fall?
episode, that thing.
Yeah, well, it happens. We are going to be dark tomorrow, but we will be interviewing Adam 22. That interview should be up by mid-afternoon on Thursday.
If you guys want us to ask anything specific, let us know.
Yeah.
Please.
What is
Yeah,
that? 22
sure.
question. Who's he finger pop?
Yeah, who's he finger popping these days?
Where's his seat?
What do you mean? Where's the seat?
we're gonna have to vote somebody off the island tonight. We'll figure it
It's not
out.
gonna be
Oh
me.
man.
I'm not leaving.
Wow.
Nose goes.
I'll literally fight
Landon's
anyone in this room.
seat is
He can have
secure.
my
Him and
seat.
Adam are friends.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
gotta
that's
fucking
true.
stay.
You get to fuck Adam.
How exciting.
No.
We'll probably vote the man off because he doesn't even know who the guy is.
I know who he is now.
We go, we're going to interview Adam 22, and he just goes, who's Adam 22?
I'm
Maybe
old,
that's why you
okay?
need to stay. You get
So
to know the
old.
guy.
What movie's A Few Good Men? Yeah, like what's this
Oh
about?
Christ, my heart
Man,
hurts.
he's making arguments.
Wait,
I know.
What's it about?
He's trying to make the
just
argument to
watch
be
the
off the
fucking
pod.
movie, man.
I just want to know what it's about.
We are going to be dark tomorrow and dark Friday. We'll have the Adam 22 podcast out Thursday. There's a slight chance we'll do an emergency if something big breaks over the rest of the week, but we do have the Academy running Wednesday through Saturday, so don't count on it, I guess. That's going to do it for us today. Sorry for all the technical difficulties and the fact that this is being uploaded late. We appreciate you guys sticking with us. Like, comment, subscribe. As always, show us a little bit of support. We will see you all Thursday.
Peace.
Later.
Who's the side piece?